Hi, this is Corrine. I'm out in my backyard again, and I noticed that a few people actually looked at my last video, which honestly sort of surprised me, but I think that's great, and I'm happy that it wasn't too many people because I still have a bit of fear concerning doing this, but that's okay. I hope it was helpful, and I hope maybe some of these future ones will be helpful. It's given me some encouragement to maybe put some more thoughts out there. Again, I don't. I'd rather show the woods than my face because I don't want this to be about me. And also, interestingly enough, as an INFJ, I've always wanted to just sort of blend into the background, And interestingly, when I was in high school, I was on sports teams, and I used to always get these awards about being quiet. Like, I remember when I was in high school, I was on a cross-country team, and they gave me, at the end of the year, they gave the joke awards, and my joke award was I got a whistle because nobody knew I was there. But the funny thing is, that was what I wanted at that time. I just wanted to blend into the background most of my life because I just never felt comfortable being the center of attention. And I'm not really sure what that is. It may be, I suppose it's an introvert thing, and a lot of INFJs are introverts, and we feel more comfortable just sort of being in the background and observing. So that's always sort of been who I was. And I think it was also, a lack of self-confidence, which came from a whole lot of other situations in my life. So I'm going to continue to put my thoughts out there. And just keep in mind, I don't have all the answers. These are just things that I've been thinking about for the last 20 years or so, and things that have helped me in my life. And when I think about these videos, if you've ever read Richard Bach's books, and he has one called Illusions, and if you've read it, go back and pick that book up and look at the last sentence right before the epilogue, and that's what I think about my videos. So, and if you haven't read the book, get the book and read it, and don't look at that sentence first because it'll sort of blow your mind when you get to that point. So, anyway, just thought I'd throw that out there. But, one thing that I think has really helped me, especially in the last year or so, is when I discovered highly sensitive persons and empaths, and then that brought me to discovering INFJ. And lately, I've also really discovered codependency. And honestly, I think the issues I've dealt with more than anything were codependency. Because being an INFJ and an empath, that's not an issue, that's a gift. That is a superpower, and we should be proud of that. And if you identify as INFJ, look into highly sensitive persons and empaths. I suppose you might not be one, but look into it. They have a lot of tests online and that sort of thing. But I think there's a lot of crossover between INFJ and HSP and empath. And an HSP is a highly sensitive person. It's generally 1/5 of the population, as I understand it. They exist both in the human and the animal world. They're the people who are on alert, the people who are sensitive to that exterior around them, which I think is what the FE is. And again, I am not an expert on being an INFJ. There's a lot of people out there who know a lot more about this than I do, but that's sort of my understanding, is that being an HSP and having that external feeling is pretty much the same thing. And the empaths are considered the ones who are almost who just can't shut it off, that they really very often need to isolate themselves because being in crowds, and, it's very debilitating. And that's what I've experienced my entire life. My entire life, a lot of times after something was going on, I just had to go isolate myself in order to relax and to recharge. Because being around people was just like being thrown around in chaos in my mind. So I think, that's sort of the difference with that. So, and the reason why I'm so interested in it, because I think I am empath. And so, so I want to find out, how can I live healthy as this? And I've realized in the last year or so that what has really been bringing me down is my codependency, because and codependency is a disorder. Being an empath and being an INFJ is not a disorder, but as I understand it, codependency is, because what it is that loss of self. It's putting all the focus on outside of yourself. And maybe that has something to do with the fact that I don't show my face, is because I'm so used to putting that focus outside of myself. I don't know. I mean, that could be part of it. I'm not sure. But I know that the codependency is making me sick. I know it is bringing me down. I know all my life I've sort of put myself in that place of the servant, where I was serving everybody else, and if I served everybody else, then I would be safe. And that was my normal default of living, but at the same time, I was basically sucking the life force out of myself by doing that, by putting all my emphasis on what my parents wanted, or what my friends wanted, or what my, husband or children wanted. I lost myself, and now I'm realizing I'm just trying to find who I am again, because at a certain point, if an empath or INFJ, if they get sucked into, codependency, at a certain point they'll stop and go, who am I and what do I want? Because you don't know. You realize your default is taking care of other people and trying to not let them fall, and trying to be the person that those people want you to be. And you're really good at it because you're an INFJ. You have that chameleon effect. You know what they want you to be, and then you try to be it. And for a long time with my parents, I tried to be that person. I tried to be it until I was 27 years old, when I cracked, when I was so full of misery trying to be who they wanted me to be, that I just went into a horrible clinical depression. And from then on, I have realized I have to be myself. And unfortunately, they don't accept me for who I actually am. And they're old-fashioned parents, and I'm 47, they're in their 70s. So they live by, an old-fashioned way of thinking that, the child should be what the parents want them to be. And it's been very hard. It's been very hard knowing that they don't validate me for who I am as a person and what my values are. And it's still hard, I talked to my father yesterday. It's still hard to know that he's disappointed with my choices in life. But you know what? I'm happy and I'm not miserable, at least. And I think it's really just struggling with these things in my mind and being okay with the fact that they don't validate me. And honestly, I look back at it and they'd validate me when I was doing what they wanted me to be. But you realize that's conditional love. That's not unconditional love. They didn't know how to love unconditionally, and that came from the fact that they probably weren't unconditionally loved themselves. And I have to realize that, it's not their fault. They could only deal with the tools and the knowledge that they had from their own experience. And it's hard as children because we think of our parents as gods. We think when we're young, they're the people who we depend on for survival. So it's really hard to go against what they believe, and not feel ostracized or banished. In my family, I'm the black sheep. My brother goes along with my parents' philosophy on life, and yeah, it's painful to not be close to them and not be accepted to them. Luckily, I do have some friends. I try to surround myself with people who think similarly to me. And it's comforting when I can go online and watch YouTube videos or read articles or blogs of people who feel exactly like me. And that's comforting. And I want to sort of, be close to that and to work on healing my codependency. So at the moment, the one thing I'm really working on is realizing I don't need somebody outside of myself to validate myself. As a codependent or as an empath, and as a human being, I can stand within myself, and myself can validate myself. I don't need anybody outside of me. And just because I'm validating myself doesn't make me selfish. Just because I'm doing what I want to do, what that does is it fills up my cup. It makes me healthy. And first of all, I can't help anybody else unless I'm healthy. And second of all, my job isn't to help everybody else. My job and my duty, first and foremost is to have a healthy self and to have a self, because as codependent empaths, our self gets lost. So, and just because you have a self doesn't mean you're going to suddenly turn narcissistic. I think that's what a lot of empaths think, that, oh my God, I'm going to suddenly turn into a narcissist if I want to do what I want to do. No, you won't. Your default is so naturally, good that you're not going to do that. You're just going to be a self-reliant person. So I guess that's what I have to say for now. I don't want this to go too long, and I hope this is helpful. Bye.